Good evening and welcome to the Jay Duke Show, where I talk to ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. And tonight I have a very special guest who's done many, many extraordinary things. Hunter rider spectacular, Louise Serio. Very excited to have her on. We have a very interesting show coming up for you. I hope you tune in as we talk about many topics about the fascinating world of hunters in the United States. I want to start off with thanking Horse Network and Carley Sparks. She's my producer and the magic behind the scenes tonight. It's such a pleasure to work with Horse Network. The professionalism they provide and everything about them they're just an amazing company, and very happy to be with them. And I want to thank Marketing for Equestrians and Brenda Mueller. They have just been such great support for me in all of this. Brenda's always sending me tips and such, and I'm sure after the show she will again. And every week we're working on improving the show and making it better and better for the viewers. And thank you so much to Brenda Mueller and Marketing for Equestrians. Just a super company to help you and your business find your way through these difficult times in 2020 and work towards a successful 2021. So thank you to Marketing for Equestrians. I want to bring on my guest tonight, Louise Serio. And I bring on these guests, and it's amazing. Last week we had Margie Engel and we have McLean Ward, and I don't even know where to start with all the things they've accomplished. And tonight's guest certainly has done so much in her career, and I'm so honored to be chatting with her. So Louise Serio, she's won championship honors in America's most prestigious horse shows. She's won the Old Springhouse Trophy for Lifetime Achievement. She's been named the Chronicle of the Horse Hunter Horseperson of the Year. She's a co-founder of the American Hunter Jumper Foundation, which merged with the USHJ. Some of her championship mounts include Gray Slipper, Castle Rock, Red Panda, Rock On, Rockstar, and Philippa. Louise is a 10-time champion at Devon and a 2-time world champion hunter rider. So when it comes to the amazing world of the hunters, you are looking at the best of the best. Louise, good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
Thank you. So I want to start off with, and I have some interesting questions for you because I really like the sport of hunters. I've done it all my life. I've had a lot of success with it, and I coach it. I also have a lot of frustrations with the sport, and I've been somewhat critical of parts of it in my articles and that. And so I'm so thankful to have you on to discuss some of these topics because really you've been such a great voice for making the sport and being as great as it is and being a positive voice in it. And I know tonight we're going to find out some of the background to that and how you've helped to make the sport of hunters better and what you're doing moving forward. But I want to start off with, why do you think there's hunters in North America and there's nowhere else in the world are there hunters? South America and Europe and Asia, the sport doesn't exist. Why do you think the sport is so popular particularly in the United States and not nowhere else in the world?
Well, I think that the history of the sport came from fox hunting, and I think it's evolved since then. And I think that a lot of the people back in the day wanted to show their horses off, and they started the shows, and that's kind of morphed into the hunters as we know it, because I think originally way back there were very few jumpers. There were way more hunters, and now the jumpers have really taken over the sport a lot. I do think that I know that they have a hunter show in France and Holland and I think Germany. Now it's just one show, but it's a style show for hunters, and that I think is important. But I think if we could have something in the hunters that's a whole nother level. 2 years ago, I tried to get hunters into the Miami Global Tour because they finish on Saturday. And we thought maybe we could do Sunday, because if we could get in with some of the FEI shows, because we can have FEI hunters, that's that would give us a whole nother level of the sport. And I think you might see it happen more internationally then.
Yes, well, and I do think it could be, and I know they do a little bit of that in Europe and such, but it just doesn't seem to have really taken off. And so it is interesting how, and I mean, there's so many barns in the United States that's even all they do. They don't even approach the jumpers. And when you talk about the fox hunting part of it, of course, I believe that it originated was it England or Ireland or one of those countries. And yet the sport of hunters, as we know it, didn't really take off. And so that was, I don't know, I just find it really interesting why it is so big. And I think it is great for the industry. It brings a lot of people into the sport, and the horse shows definitely really rely on the hunters. There's no question about that. Let's talk about your personal contributions to the sport, because they are endless. I think I was looking up your history, and if there's a board or a committee in the United States, you've been on it. So how has that worked for you? What is the motivation behind you being such a vocal voice in the sport?
I like that stuff. I like being involved in where things are going, and I like to bring my opinion forward because I'm still an active professional and I'm still working and I'm in the dirt. It's important to people like that on the committees. Oftentimes people have moved on or doing something different. So I do really enjoy it. I'm fortunate right now to be head of the National Hunter Derby Task Force, and the National Hunter Derby is just a spectacular class. It's, everybody, it's open to everybody. So it's really been fun. And I've been fortunate enough. I was head of the Hunter Committee when it was AHSA. How long ago was that?
A long time ago, yes.
A long time ago. So that's again, I really like that. And the one thing I'd like to say, though, that I'm very proud of is the world champion hunter rider. Jeff Teal and I started that long ago, like 28 years ago, and that format is still going, and it's been very positive for our sport. But even better than that, once Jeff and I got the world champion hunter rider going, Kavar Kerr and Jim Anderson approached us about making a foundation, and that's the American Hunter Jumper Foundation, and that was the first organization that we had emergency relief, and we got to help so many people with a barn fire or floods or broken legs or operations or teeth, or it was really a rewarding thing to do that. And the other thing that the American Hunter Jumper Foundation did was it started the first 401k program. Sally Glassman from Merrill Lynch came in and put that together, and that's been, for me, I would still be just riding horses and spending my money, but she showed so many of us how to save, even if it's a little bit, so that as we get older, we have a retirement. And I have a lot of friends that have used her, and she really impacted our sport greatly. So the foundation with Kavar Kerr and Jim Anderson and Jeff and I think that's probably the best thing I've ever done for the sport. So.
Wow, that is so, to give back to people like that, that's just a really great story. And is that still going on, or is that moved on now?
No, they have something called Horseman's Assistance now in the USHJA, so they do help that. It does not seem to be as in the forefront as when it was with the American Hunter Jumper Foundation. I think it was because people would call us and say, so-and-so got hurt and we need to do an application. And I think we were all a lot more involved in it. I'm not involved in it anymore. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now that's such a great cause. And there is, this year there were some people, a group that got together and was helping to raise money for some of the horse show people that were out of work. And it does seem like the horse community is so supportive of one another when there's a problem, the fires in California, or when there's different things like that. The community is so great about supporting one another. And, sometimes you hear, little cattiness and backstabbing and people fighting over clients, and there is all of that aspect to it. But it does seem when the chips are down, everyone steps up and really helps one another out. And that is great to see.
Yeah. And now they even have, they have Equestrian Aid and the Equus Foundation, and some other of the foundations are doing great things also.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. So how do you feel where the sport of hunters is today? And I don't mean specifically 2020, because obviously everything this year is what it is. So, but just in general, as far as where the sport is, let's say if you compare it to 25 years ago, for instance, what positive steps do you feel have happened in the sport? And then contrary to that, what negative steps do you think have happened in the sport in the past 25 years?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is negative, and that the cost of this sport is just ridiculous anymore. That it's almost impossible to be able to afford it for any normal working person. And I think that's one of the hardest things. And I think that's impacted the sport greatly because people can't get into it. And it is a rich man's sport, no doubt. How has it changed? It's changed a lot, I think, from 25 years ago, in that I think that um, our horse shows are better, our footing is better, our most of the time. Our courses are good. We have new goals. We have the Derby and the incentive, and we have finals for the adults and the children's, and the pony finals. And I know they had pony finals years ago too, but I think that we have a whole new set of goals. And I think that that's really important. And I think that it used to be we only had indoors, Devon, and Horse of the Year. That was all there was to for a year end or for a goal. And now with all these other finals, it's really opened up a lot of doors. A lot of the big horse shows are having the finals at their show, so it's exciting for all different levels of the sport. Our horse shows have really morphed. I mean, when I started, I can remember as a junior, you just started jumping 3'6". There was no 3 foot. We jumped 3'6", and now at every horse show, there's a division for 2 foot, 2'6", 2'9". There's just everybody can come to these major horse shows where we used to go to smaller shows and kind of work our way up the ladder. Now you can just start at the best horse show. Usually, or Wellington or Thermal or out west. They have divisions for everybody, which is great for us as trainers. I think that helps a lot with our clientele, and it also shows them a path going forward as to a higher goal. If they want to move up, there's always a place to go.
It is. So I want to talk about that. It is great for us as trainers. There's no question about that, and the simple economics of it. Is it great for the sport? And that's the thing when you talk there about as far as can go to the shows and move up. Would it be more incentive for people to train harder and work with only the best trainers if, say, they couldn't, compete at Wellington? If they could not compete at Devon unless they were, competing, let's say, at the 3'6" level. I think there's, it's certainly by the classes being lowered, it's brought in exponentially more numbers. I would say, if the hunters started at 3'6", then the numbers of the horse shows would drop 80%. So, there's no question from an economic point of view, that's not a good thing. However, on the flip side of that, it's also brought in many more, say, professionals and trainers that are not of your level and not necessarily qualified, to the same degree to coach and teach. And so then you have a lot more students that are not receiving top instruction. So I think, there's definitely pros and cons to that. What is your thoughts there?
Well, I think you're exactly right. If they made horse shows like they used to be, you jump 3'6" and higher, that the horse shows initially, I think, would really suffer. I think that after a while they would pick up because people would move up to go to those better horse shows. I do think that a lot of people make a living in this sport that are not well trained or don't teach well, and that makes it hard. And that we do have some things in place with the USHJA, like trainer certification and things like that nobody pays any attention to, though, to try to help with that. That's a great program, and really the manual that they have is really good.
I was on the board for that, so yes, it was a great program, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. But
it didn't go anywhere. But I'm a certified trainer because I was doing stuff with committees then. But that manual is wonderful. That's a really good teaching aid, and I get it out if I'm going to do a clinic. I'll get it out and start to read through it just to get some ideas. But back to what we were talking about, I think it'd be hard to say how that would work. Maybe we wouldn't have so many 3'3" juniors and amateurs. Maybe they would all just move to the 3'6" because that would allow them to go to better horse shows, and that would definitely change our sport.
I wrote an article, and it was a little bit for fun, but just on the 3'3" hunter division, because it did seem to be one of those things to be a bit of a money grab for the horse shows. because as you know, I think most of the horses and riders in the 3'3" division could compete at 3'6", and those that would not be able to jump that high could step down to the 3 foot division. So if we look at things like the California split, which they call, so basically everyone gets a ribbon type of thing. And that's always been difficult for me. I remember my, showing in the pony hunters, and there was on average 40, 50, 60 ponies. I think I got my first ribbon when I was in year 4. The ponies, and now if the kids don't get 4 ribbons a day, they're crying and such. Right. So that's always to me, I'm not sure you lose some of the incentive, but I also I see the point of it. And I know why the horse shows like to do that, but I do think things like say the 3-3 division, to me, I'd like to see more incentive to step up. For instance, with the Hunter Derbies. Which I love the Derbies, and I want to get into that. But as an example here, I think like the 4-foot Hunter Derby should have, let's say $40,000 up, and the 3-foot Hunter Derby should have maybe $1,000 up, type of thing. And I think they should have the 3-foot Derby. I like that a lot, but I don't think there should be the same reward for it, because I think you should be encouraging people to move on and become better and better with their training. What do you think on that?
I think 2 things about that. I think the 3-3 junior hunter division, which I think is exactly right, because if you do the 3-3s, you can't do the 3-6. And that division is a stepping stone from children's to the 3-3, to people maybe who can't afford the top junior hunter. But it has gotten to be, a huge division and extremely competitive. I think because they protect it and you're only allowed to do that, more people show in that division because they don't feel like they have to get junior riders and their fancy junior hunters. So I feel that that's really positive for our sport. As far as the money goes for the derbies and all, I definitely think there's a hierarchy that there should be. Like, it's really disturbing. You go to a show, okay, jumpers, for instance, you'll have a $30,000 children's adult classic and a $15,000 low junior amateurs, and the things get skewed like that. But in the horse show's defense, if you have a sponsor, you've got to take that money to do that. But I definitely think that, and we got that passed for the high performance had to give more money than any other division because they were jumping bigger jumps. Now some horse shows would do $1 more. But the idea was that if you're doing high performance and you're jumping bigger and harder jumps, you deserve more prize money for that. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing you're saying, that, and even the national derbies, they have, most of those are $2,500 or $5,000 classes, and you have to give at least $10,000 in the international derbies. So there is but if a big sponsor comes along, there's going to be more money in the other levels,
Right.
I don't know how you control that, and I don't know how you tell the horse show not to take the sponsor money. So.
No, for sure you have to, and that's also a great point you make about the 3-3 hunters. I like that angle that you're thinking with the hunter derbies. I love the hunter derbies. I just think, to me, that's the best part of the hunter sport. Myself, I grew up riding hunters at Spruce Meadows, so the Spruce Meadows ring. We had Liverpool in the ring. We had a dry ditch. We had a step jump with a wooden bear on one side and a wooden sheep on the other side. You got up, the shortest line was 7 bending strides, maybe. And you had to get up. There was a stone wall. You didn't fall. You didn't want to fall off. That's for sure. Because it was a long walk and you'd be hurt. But it was amazing to ride in that. And it was on a big slope. It was a massive ring. There wasn't one straight step on it as far as a level field. And so seeing the derbies today reminds me of those days when it was true riding, when you had to really get up and you had to gallop and you had to go at those jumps. So I love what's happened with the derbies and seeing how that's helped develop the sport. I think create kind of a Grand Prix for the hunter division. How do you look at how the derbies have worked for the hunters?
Oh, I think they've been a huge incentive, and the Derby finals are fantastic. But my complaint now is I feel like the Derbies prior to the finals have gotten very plain. Just like you say, Okay, I'll bring up when I won the Derby in Wellington on Castle Rock. We had something called the Ring of Fire, which was straw bales in a circle, and you had to do one stride in. We had to do the table bank. We had to do the horseshoe bank. We had, it was just so much. There was so much more to the courses,
Mm-hmm.
and they've taken away a lot of the fun things that we used to do, like open a gate. Okay, that got taken out because somebody didn't like that, or the horse didn't like that, or whatever. When I was a kid, you had to canter up to a jump, push a rail off, hop off, strap your. We did that a couple of times in Wellington. You had to lead over, but there's always a complaint about things like that. That it's too gimmicky, or it's too this, or it's too that. But it makes the class more exciting. And I don't feel like we're getting the kind of jumps that we were. Like we would get some really exciting different kinds of jumps, but the finals in Kentucky is just outstanding, and those jumps are super. But we need to see more of that during the year. It's hard to do just normal derbies and then go and have to do all that. So I think the committee's working on that right now to try to get it where some of the stuff comes back in.
Yeah, it's the dumbing down as far. My old coach, who passed away last year, Richard Keller from California, just a great horseman. And he one time, and this was many years ago, said, the jumps are getting so low, pretty soon we're going to have subterranean hunters, and they're going to dig a hole and drop a pole in the ground. But when you talk about the derbies and the difficulty level, I remember this was about 10 years ago now. I was riding a 6-year-old horse who you may be familiar with. His name is now Mindful. At that time, we called him Grappa. And I was showing him in the meter 20s or meter 30 jumpers, and we were at Thunderbird Equestrian Park in Langley, British Columbia, which is an amazing show facility. So I did the Hunter Derby, and actually this Hunter Derby was won by Ashley Bond on one of her horses. And Mindful I was second on her. It was his first time he'd ever jumped a Hunter jump in his life. But talking about the difficulty of it, because you know how you could jump extra obstacles in the ring that were not marked.
Right.
So we did.
Not anymore, but.
Yeah, well, we could do then. So this was only 10 years ago. So we jumped to Liverpool. There was no rails, no standards, an open Liverpool, 5 bending strides to number 1, 3 bending strides to a pile of rocks. Then we jumped over a dry ditch, no jumps. And then we jumped the fort jump and then the Swedish oxer across the middle to another pile of rocks to the step. I mean, it was just the whole course was like that, and came off the bank, 1 stride to 3 straw bales standing on end. I mean, and it was just the crowd loved it. I mean, there had to be 4,000 people watching. The riders loved it, and it was just such a great event. It's really sad that we don't see those sort of things anymore, except, like you said, at the Derby finals.
Yeah. No, and it just would be nice to have special jumps and make it special, just like you say. That sounds a little too difficult, but the first time.
It was the second round, so you didn't have to do that. You could just ride the jumps. You could just ride the regular course. But Ashley and I were just having fun with it because we were just on jumpers, so we didn't really care. And so we just thought, well, how hard can we make this?
That's funny.
So it was for fun. How do you reply to, the critics of the hunter world today that talk about, obviously, whether it be the judging or whether it be how the horses are prepared or that sort of thing, as a superstar of the sport and as a true, you're such a great horse person and you care so much about the horses. How do you respond to the critics that say the sport is tainted?
Well, it's hard. Issue right now, and I personally, so I have the Brandywine horse shows. I'm involved with those, and we try really hard to get judges that are still active in our sport, meaning they are still showing, they're riding, they're setting jumps, they're at the barn every day or whatever. And I think that's one of the hardest things, because those people are the ones who don't want to judge because they're still active and, getting results in the show ring. I think everybody should judge at some point because it's a real kicker. I mean, it's not easy and it takes a lot out of you. And I think that they're trying hard to come up with some ways. But truthfully, when I got my card, you got 15 people to sign a piece of paper that said you could be a judge, and you sent that in and you got your little R, and then you did the same thing for your large R. And I think making it harder has made it more difficult to get people to do it, the time that they have to spend. And if you're smart, you don't just get a card and go judge Wellington or Devon. You take your time and judge some smaller shows and get your system in order and get your confidence. And then I think you're a good judge. But I think so many people that that have free time are now judging, and that's not what it should be. And I think that we've gotten a lot of professional judges too, and a lot of them do a great job. A lot of them do a really good job, but it's the people that are really active that you tend to respect, and even if you disagree, you totally respect their opinion for something they might see.
Mhm.
How we prepare our horses, I have to say that that's the hardest thing right now, because they have to be quiet, they have to jump well, and they talk about changing the judging system, but that doesn't really make sense, because even if a horse is going to buck in the turn, you're not going to just say, "Oh, well, that's okay. I'm still going to let him win the class," because he could buck somebody off. It's really hard to say you're going to change the system to allow for some small disobediences when a horse goes around and doesn't have any and does it well. As far as preparing, I lunge my horses for sure. And that's another issue because we have poor lunging areas.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just how our sport has evolved. But I do think that the derbies, when they get big and hard and difficult, you would see the horses have a little more expression or a little bit of excitement. Just like when the handies came back, you see those horses, they really like to kind of jump and turn and do something different.
Yeah.
And it makes them better jumpers, and it makes them more rideable. And, I, I don't know what to say to everybody when they complain about it. I love the sport of hunters.
Mhm.
I would rather go sit and watch a hunter class I love the upper level jumpers, don't get me wrong, but I want to watch their technique and their bascule and their movement and their expression. And that's what I like about our sport. And I think a lot of people appreciate that
Mhm.
and like that.
Yeah, they do.
I don't
And
think I answered your question, but
well, no, you did, and to watch a great hunter is just a work of
yeah.
art. It's incredible. Let's continue on with the judging aspects. I'm gonna throw something at you here, and I want to get your opinion on it. And I'm hoping you like it. A couple weeks ago, I talked to Jimmy Toronto about doing the regional pony finals, and now we're doing regional pony finals on video. So I'm hoping we have the same success with my show on this point. One thing I've never understood, and I'm hoping you can enlighten me, is why the hunters are judged only on the horse, and then the equitation is judged only on the rider. To me, as an athlete, and I'm an avid sports fan. I mean, if there's a game or a sport on, I mean, I've played it and I've watched it and I'm into it. So to me, it makes sense that when I'm coaching and when I'm working with horses, to me, it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport at all. It's, the horse needs the rider and the rider needs the horse, and the two of them work together as a team. And that's one of the basics of my coaching system is it's a team effort. So to me, the horse should have a score and the rider should have a score. And then that way you could, if the horse did play, for instance, the horse could be deducted a certain amount of points. But if the rider stayed on while they played and recovered well, maybe the rider was given a little bit of a bonus point. So it seems to me a very simple solution. And I one thing I have, if I'm ever critical of things, I always try to provide a solution. It might not be a good solution, but I hate to be critical without an answer. Is why not 50 points for the horse, a score out of 50 points for the horse, and a score out of 50 points for the rider? And then you would have a cumulative score out of 100, which is currently the situation, how they're scored. And that to me would be the ultimate test of training, competition, of sport. What do you think on that?
I like that. I tend to like different things like that. I think you'd have a hard time convincing people, but I think that's really an interesting concept. And I think we should talk about that more, because that would really change our judging system too. You're right. It could. Anyway, I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but I really like that.
I threw you a curveball. I know, but I have thought about. I mean, I've talked about this and I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm just like, it would change the judging system. But like you're right, I think there's a lot of great judges out there. I think that a lot of the criticism that judges take is because of the system that they're forced to work under, more so than the actual quality of their judging. And so I look at it that if they were given a more realistic, more modern system of being able to judge, that it would really help to showcase their skills as well. Like, I don't like it when people are critical of the judging. I think it's a very difficult situation, like you said. And I think the judges are put in a very difficult position as far as that goes. So I think if they had that, if the scores were announced, okay, this horse was given a 41 and this rider was given a 42 score, or whatever it happened to be, and then all of that was announced, that also would help as trainers, because then you would help you with your students as far as how to do all that sort of thing. It just, to me, seems to be the next step forward in the sport. But whenever I talk about hunters, I always just kind of get, well, this is the way we do it, and be quiet.
No, I think that's really interesting, and it actually could fit right along with World Champion Hunter Rider. We have talked about doing a system for judging, and it just never goes anywhere. It just doesn't go anywhere. Like the Rainers have an actual system for a plus and minus and all that. But that way, it would really, you're right. That's a really interesting concept. We'll have to work on that.
Well, I did come up with that scoring system as well, and I got shot down big time as well. So I did come up with that's where this is my next idea. I'm like, well, maybe this one will fly. We'll see. So yeah, well, we can talk about that further. Now, again, further to helping to change the sport. The one thing, I know that you love horses. I mean, I love horses. Everybody watching this show loves their horses and loves their animals. Many of the substances that are used to get the horses quiet and that sort of thing are lunging them on bad footing for, some people will lunge, for hours at a time and that sort of thing. I know that's not how it should be, but there's a few people that do that. It's very harmful. And to me, it's not really part of the sport. I think, Carley, we're gonna show you a picture here from a horse show which was sent to me from it, and this is the sort of thing which is quite common at the horse shows. Unfortunately, you'll see in the Hunter Isles. Carley, do you have that picture for us? Take a peek at it.
It's up.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Yep. It's up.
Okay, great. I can't see it, so that's okay. But I have seen it before. And so that was sent to me, and that's unfortunately quite commonplace. And that was at a top horse show. I do know the barn. I don't need to say what barn it was. That part doesn't really matter. But it was a nationally recognized barn with a nationally recognized coach. That was done. Well, how do you feel when you see that?
That's disgusting. I was hoping that you were going to say that was from 2 or 3 barns that dumped their containers there or something. But no, that's terrible. I mean, the thing is I don't really think our owners want to do that either. But okay, let me go backwards a little bit with that, because there are owners who could care less. They just want to win ribbons. But I think most people love their horses and don't really want them overly medicated. And I have to say that as I've gotten older, I don't mind not having depot. I think it was dangerous. They were killing horses giving shots at depot. So, and I stopped using it a year before they banned it, because I had heard about horses dying. I think Dex is terrible. I mean, I think that's a terrible thing for your horse. I think we have more horses with ulcers and hindgut ulcers and all that anymore because of the medications that we use. And the horses don't really go that much differently if you don't give them all that stuff. I have found that myself, because over the years, okay, I know I'm guilty of trying a lot of different things, but it never really stuck. And it's a slippery slope to go down when you start using some of the crazy things that are out there. And I fortunately haven't gone down that slope, or haven't gone very far if I did. And I think that you just have to decide that yourself. And I think your clients should have some input as to what their horses are getting. And I think they would all agree that they don't want their horses drugged per se. It's hard to say what were in all those needles. It looked like they were smaller ones, and I don't know if that's Dex, which you would give 12 hours out, 2.5 cc's, and I don't know. I can't figure that out, but I do have to say that that's terrible. You just disappeared. I guess I'll just keep talking. I don't know. I think that if we can get to the point where we have better lunging areas and better footing, because I think lunging is part of our sport, and we have to be able to have a really nice footing. I go to a show that I actually put my horses on the trailer and take them down the road to a better place because the footing's so bad at the show. And I think that's really sad. I'm not sure if I'm still on because Jay kind of disappeared, and I guess I'll just keep talking. Whoops, there comes Carley. Hi.
Hi, you're doing great, Louise. Jay had a little technical issue with his thing. I expect he'll be right back on the stream in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the magic of live, or the joy of live. But we're getting a lot of really great comments from our viewers. So I'll take this opportunity to share a few of them with you, and we can field questions until Jay gets back.
Okay.
He's actually back already. Let's see. I'm going to share this one though with you. It was from Kathy Wessels, and she said, as a trainer, what do you focus on with your clients? Pace, changes, hands. I just totally changed the direction of your conversation there, and Jay's back. I'll let you answer, and then I'll let Jay back in.
Okay, so I think you have to focus on all those things. I mean, if you're talking about, I'm guessing this is about jumping in on a course, I always say pace, track, distance, that you have to get your pace, you have to find your track, and then you look for your distance. And, the changes are important for everything. I have to say lead changes are ridiculously important, but yes, that's nice. And having nice soft hands is a really important part of it. So as a trainer, I kind of focus on all those different things. And we would do those different, the pace, having good pace going to jump makes a huge difference. And that really helps create the momentum and the cadence that you need for a good jump and to have your horse jump well. Lead changes are important, and having a soft, educated hand and really feeling what your horse is doing, all those things are really important. So I think your trainer is focusing on all good things.
I think we could talk to Louise all night, certainly, about her horsemanship, and she would have a lot of tips for us. And hopefully in the future, maybe we'll have her on and we will have more of a horse training session for sure, because certainly her knowledge and expertise. I do know anyone out there looking for a clinician. I'm a great clinician, but Louise also, she's an amazing clinician. And so you can give her a call at any time to get her to your barn to help all of your horses and all of your riders. Sorry about that. I got bumped. I'm not sure what happened. I'm at a horse show. I'm staying at an Airbnb, and the Wi-Fi is definitely a little bit iffy. So I do think, when it comes to the medication, that, like I said, I think, again, it comes back to changing. And I know what you're saying as far as how are you going to reward a buck or not, not penalize that and that sort of thing. And I do agree with that. I do think that there's some horses. I mean, for instance, I have a horse here at the horse show that's doing the 3-foot children's hunters. And I mean, it is so quiet and so slow. You would think it had done something. I can guarantee you, we barely get him from the stall to the ring. He's so quiet. And he trots around the ring 4 times and jumps a few jumps and goes in the ring and he lopes line. And he's never had a needle in him of any kind. And he wouldn't know how to go on a lunge line. So those horses should not be penalized because they're quiet either. But I do think if there's a way that we could change the system of judging so that the cheaters were not rewarded so much, then that's going to stop them, because they're only doing it to win. So if we can change that, then that part of it goes away. That's my thought. It's not about, we can talk about drug testing all day long. You can't drug test every single horse. Economics wise, that doesn't work. And the cheaters are always ahead of the testers anyway, as we all know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So that's for sure. So that's why I would like to to work with people like yourself to help that. And you have done so much, and you are such a great example of how to do it right. And I want to emphasize that to everybody out there. You know, here we are, a 2-time world champion who's really done it the right way. And that's so inspiring and so great to see. And it shows that that can be done. What is the secret to your success? How have you done it the right way?
I don't know. I think I've had great horses. You know, I think your horses are what teach you more than anything. And I've had wonderful horses and wonderful clients. And if you listen to your horse, and every one of them is different, and you try to, you know, create the best rounds that you can have, and you work on the weaknesses at home, and then I don't know. I think it's all about your horses. So I'm just so lucky. I've had fantastic horses.
What's the best hunter horse you've ever seen or ever ridden? Who's the best?
Okay. You know, you sent me that question and I was like, wow, there's a lot of really great horses. I think currently, or within the past 5 years, Catch Me is one of the very best. I think his jumping style and his movement and his expression. And not only that, he does the amateurs, he does the professional divisions. He's just an amazing athlete. So for me, he's, you know, one of the more current ones. Mm-hmm. Some of my favorites, you know, you mentioned some in the beginning, Red Panda and Castle Rock, and Grace Slipper I had great success with. And, you know, I just have really been blessed. Now, Grace Slipper taught me a lot. That horse taught me a lot because he was very spooky. And we kind of just always patted him on the neck and told him it was okay. And he got so that he wasn't spooky. But he, you know, again, it's just figuring out each horse. So I'm just lucky. I am lucky. I'm a lucky person. I'm a blessed person. So.
Well, to be that successful with so many horses, yes, you are lucky and you are blessed, but you're also such a great horse person. And that really shows. You know, there's a lot of people that can be very successful with one horse, and, you know, that kind of works. But to be, you know, that successful with multiple horses, there's something about that program that's working. So
Thank you.
You definitely deserve that. Who's the rider that you fear the most in the ring? Like, okay, so you're second last in the second round, you know, you're the 11th rider in, and who's the one rider coming after you that you don't want to see?
Scott Stewart, by far. He is amazing.
And what is it about him that does that?
I don't know. He's got killer instinct when he walks in that ring. I mean, and he I don't know. I just admire his riding so much. And he has great horses and has had years and years of great horses and success and owners, but he'll talk to you outside the ring and make it sound like he's worried about something, and then he just kicks your butt every time. He's really good. And there are a lot of great riders, you know. I mean, that's the thing. It's all about your horse. Again, you can be a great rider, but if you don't have a great horse, it's going to be hard to compete with them. But, you know, Liza Taud, look at John French, Peter Pletcher, you know, I was so lucky that I got to do Las Vegas with Peter Pletcher, John French, Scott Stewart, and myself. We went out there and got to do that, and that was so much fun. And those guys they're amazing, and they just keep, you know, producing wonderful rounds and wonderful horses.
So I want to finish up talking about Las Vegas and the battle that you guys had with the Europeans. And I was definitely an outsider to this. I want to get some inside details from you. So as I recall, you know, the first year you did it, the Europeans came in and just slaughtered you guys, and it wasn't. They didn't
even come close to slaughtering us. No, not a chance.
No, but they did come in and put up a very good show.
Okay, let's talk about judging again, because nobody agreed that they should have won that year. Nobody agreed that. So then we had to come back and do it again, and we beat them the second time. But that was so much fun. Our horses, they were wild, though. I was standing at the in-gate on mine, and he was leaping and bucking. You know, they've never been around crowds like that. It was crazy fun. It was really fun.
It was such a great spectator event, and I was there the second year. So I was there when you Team America did redeem themselves, but as far as that goes. But that was just such great theater, and the way that the horse show did it was so great. And I thought it seemed the European riders had a wonderful time with it. It just seemed like such a great thing for the sport. Do you have any stories from there that really stand out about?
No, but here's another thing we got to do is we got to do WEG in Kentucky.
Okay.
And that was super fun. And that was Peter Pletcher, Jennifer Alfano, Liza Tal, Tammy Provost, and myself. There were 5 of us. And we all rode a horse, and we did an exhibition. We were in exhibition. We would go down, and Peter never got up to ride his horse. We all got up and rode our horses and, worked him. Peter never showed up. He would just show the thing. They had a place called Maker's Mark, which was the big VIP tent. We didn't have one ticket when we got there. Ariat gave me some, and every day we got to go in and sit at the VIP tent. And we ended up sitting with the princess of somewhere at one point. And we had Tammy Provost bought a Rolex watch, but she almost didn't make it there because she's a really good gambler, and she was winning at one of the casinos on the way out. But it was really fun, and we would do our exhibition here. But here's a good story. We do our exhibition, and you'd knock a fence down in the clouds. They'd all clap for you. They didn't know what was going on. But there was this little girl there doing an exhibition before us, and her name was Lizzie Traband. And Lizzie did Roman riding and all these other things, but Lizzie had been born without one full arm, so she had one and a half arms. And we got to talking to her. She was from Pennsylvania, actually, and her dream was to come to Wellington. So we all got talking about it. We went back to the USHJA Foundation, and we started making a dream that year, and bring her horses and get lessons with everybody else. And that program's still going, and they bring people down there. So it was fun to have something like that. But her name's Lizzie Trabant. She's in Europe showing right now and doing great. Lovely family. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was change. The way those little things that just start off as a meeting and a conversation, how it can change lives. That's I love to hear that. I love that about people like yourself that make those things happen.
Well, we're lucky.
Well, thank you, Louise, so much for coming on the show, being part of the J. Duke Show on Horse Network. It was really a pleasure. It's my first time talking to a Hunter superstar rider, and I've been waiting to do it. And you could not have brought someone on better than you. And so thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want everyone to join us next week. We have a special time because I have a special guest. Laura Kraut is coming to us live from England. She's going to be on at 3 p.m. Eastern next Monday on the J. Duke Show on Horse Network. Can't wait to talk to Laura. She just had a nasty spill, and she said, look, I need a couple weeks so I can go on camera before I can get there. So we've given her a little time, and can't wait to chat with Laura. Just an amazing Olympic rider for Team USA, and that's going to be a lot of fun next Monday at 3 p.m. Thank you to Marketing for Equestrian for being here with Brenda Mueller. It's been wonderful to have you as part of the team, and all of your support is greatly appreciated, and look forward to working with you in the future. And I want to thank my producer, Carley Sparks, who filled in for me tonight because, 2020 and technology, it's the way it goes. So thank you, Carley, for stepping in like so. And Horse Network, absolutely the best company out there. Horse Network's incredible. Thank you so much. Ride safely, and as always, respect the horse.